Kate Middleton breaks down in tears after uncovering Camilla's secret vault hidden deep inside the palace. Inside, explosive files, private letters, and evidence possibly tied to Princess Diana's death. A royal cover-up exposed, and now Kate holds the truth the monarchy has kept buried for 28 years. The discovery that shakes Kate to the core. It began quietly, on a rainy evening inside Windsor Palace. While reviewing restoration plans for a lesser-known West Wing, Kate Middleton noticed something strange: an unmarked door on a layout that wasn't supposed to exist. Curious, she asked a staff member about it. The man froze, then muttered that it led to archival storage, nothing important. But something in his tone felt off. Later that night, Kate returned alone with a flashlight. When she turned the old brass handle, the door creaked open into a narrow stairwell. The air was cold, still, untouched for years. As she descended, her light landed on a steel vault door, engraved faintly with the initials CR. Her heart pounded. Those weren't Charles's initials. They were Camilla's. Kate hesitated, but when she noticed a small keypad and found the code scribbled behind an old portrait frame, a 4-digit date, 1997, the world seemed to stop. That was the year Princess Diana died. She entered it. The lock clicked open. Inside the chamber, rows of dust-covered boxes lined the walls. One box sat open, filled with handwritten letters, black and white photographs, and faded diaries. Kate picked up one and froze. On the top page, in graceful handwriting, were the words, "To Diana, for when they come for you." Her hands trembled. As she turned each page, fragments of the past came alive. Names, dates, events too familiar, too personal. Her tears blurred the ink. She whispered to herself, "This can't be real." A staff member later confessed the vault had been kept off records for over 20 years, known only to a select few inside Camilla's circle. The deeper Kate looked, the clearer it became. The room wasn't a simple archive. It was a vault of secrets, sealed after Diana's death, and now accidentally reopened by the woman many saw as Diana's true successor. By the time Kate emerged, her eyes were red, her face pale. One witness said, "She looked like she'd seen a ghost." But what exactly was that room for? Why had it been built in the first place? And what was Camilla protecting so carefully all these years? Those answers lay in the next discovery: the origins and purpose of the vault itself. Camilla's secret vault, origins and purpose. The secret vault wasn't a recent creation. It dated back to the early 2000s, quietly installed beneath one of the palace's older extensions, not long after Camilla Parker Bowles began re-entering royal life. Engineers brought in under renovation contracts were allegedly instructed to build a secure underground archive, complete with soundproofing, encrypted locks, and temperature controls. According to one former worker, it wasn't a storage room. It was built like a bank vault, reinforced concrete, motion alarms, the works. Officially, it was meant for sensitive correspondences relating to the crown. Unofficially, however, several palace aides believed it became Camilla's personal vault, a place to store materials too explosive for public or royal eyes. Inside were private letters, old audio cassettes, even handwritten notes between senior royals from the 1990s and early 2000s, a turbulent period when Diana's shadow still loomed large. Insiders claim Camilla's closest aide, identified only as Margaret D., supervised the vault's completion in 2004, just a year before Charles and Camilla's wedding. Its access list was tiny. Fewer than 4 people had clearance, including a private archivist from Sandringham. Everything inside was indexed, labeled, and protected under codes referencing Diana's timeline. Years like 1981, 1992, 1997. This was no coincidence. It appeared the vault had been organized chronologically around Diana's life and aftermath. When Kate stumbled upon it, she unknowingly stepped into the heart of a hidden royal operation. The chamber held Camilla's private narrative of history, compiled over decades. Some documents reportedly carried personal annotations from Camilla herself, suggesting she had read and curated everything stored there. Why build such a vault? Was it protection or control? A retired staff member, speaking anonymously, said, "Camilla didn't trust the public archives. She said, 'Some stories must never leave the walls.'" The vault, then, was not just a storage room. It was a fortress of memory, designed to hold the monarchy's most volatile secrets, especially those tied to Princess Diana's death. And that's where the next discovery shook everything. Because as Kate read deeper into those boxes, she found letters and diary pages that hinted Diana might have known more than anyone realized, and that her fears had been recorded for a reason. Up next, the Diana connection that could rewrite royal history itself. The Diana connection, what links the vault to her death. As Kate began sorting through the dusty files, one envelope instantly caught her attention. The seal bore a crest Diana once used on her personal letters, marked Private, 1996. Inside were 2 handwritten pages, their ink faded but unmistakably authentic. The first line stopped Kate cold. "They want me silenced before the divorce is final." It wasn't gossip. It was Diana's own handwriting, written just months before her tragic death in August 1997. The room felt heavier, the air colder. Kate pressed her palm to her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God, she knew." Inside the vault, other papers were far worse. There were typewritten transcripts of what appeared to be recorded phone calls, allegedly between senior palace figures and outside associates. Some mentioned arrangements for Diana's security being changed weeks before her fatal car crash. One even referenced an Operation Silence, dated June 1997, 2 months before that night in Paris. One archivist who later reviewed copies described it as a map of cover-ups. Bank receipts revealed unusual transfers, each under £50,000, to accounts tied to a company later linked with a former security advisor. These documents hinted that Diana's final weeks may have been shadowed by financial manipulation and secret orders, never meant to see daylight. Among the tapes, Kate found one labeled simply July 10th, Kensington. When played, a soft voice, eerily calm, said, "If something happens to me, look to the palace, not Paris." Whether authentic or not, it was devastating. Kate reportedly collapsed to her knees, tears streaming as she clutched the cassette to her chest. For her, Diana was more than history. She was the woman whose absence defined her own royal journey. She sat in silence for nearly an hour before whispering, "They've kept her locked away, even in death." Each document pointed to the same unthinkable conclusion, that this vault wasn't built to remember Diana. It was built to control the memory of her. By the time Kate left that night, she knew 2 things. First, the vault was real. And second, it held truths powerful enough to fracture the royal family forever. But that begged the question, who built it? Who maintained it? And why was Camilla Parker Bowles at the center of it all? The next chapter would pull back that curtain, revealing whether Camilla was a protector of order or the puppet master behind a hidden empire of secrets. Camilla's role, protector or puppet master? For years, Camilla has been seen as the quiet, dutiful consort, the woman who softened King Charles's edges and stayed out of the spotlight. But what Kate uncovered suggested something else entirely. Inside several files, Camilla's initials, CR for Camilla Regina, appeared next to archival notations. She wasn't just aware of the vault's existence. She was authorizing entries, deciding which documents were stored and which were destroyed under discretion. A timeline log found among the folders placed her in contact with a now-retired archivist in 2008, the year certain audio tapes were sealed permanently. That same year, a directive marked, "By order of HRH," requested that no external audit of the West Wing archives shall occur. This wasn't accidental. It was structured secrecy. Those close to Camilla argue she was protecting the monarchy from collapse. One former courtier told a reporter, "Her Majesty believed the past must be contained. Too much truth, and the institution burns." Others, however, saw something more self-serving, a woman reshaping history to secure her legacy. There were even whispers that she blocked independent historians from accessing Diana-era correspondence as late as 2019, citing national dignity. Camilla's closest allies, including 2 senior staffers from Clarence House, oversaw vault maintenance twice a year, checking locks and ensuring no trace of digital copies remained. Every visit was logged, every movement recorded. To some, that's the work of a protector. To others, a puppet master pulling strings from the shadows. What troubled Kate most was one short memo Camilla had written years ago. "The truth is not a weapon if it never leaves the room." That line repeated in Kate's mind long after she left the vault. It painted Camilla not just as a guardian of the past, but as its editor, shaping what survived and what vanished. Now, with the vault exposed, Camilla's iron wall of secrecy was cracking. Kate had evidence that could change the monarchy's story forever. But every move forward came with danger. If Camilla was willing to bury these truths once, what might she do to keep them buried again? Kate needed allies. She needed courage. And above all, she needed to decide whether to open this secret to the world or let it die in the dark. That's where the next act begins, with Kate's search for truth and the walls already closing in around her. Kate's investigation. Allies, barriers, revelations. After the initial shock of the discovery, Kate Middleton knew she couldn't walk away. Too much was at stake, not just for her, but for Diana's legacy, her children's future, and the truth buried under decades of silence. But this wasn't a fight she could wage in public, so she moved quietly. Her first call was to Lady Sarah McCorquodale, Diana's sister, one of the few people Kate knew she could trust. Lady Sarah reportedly flew into London under the cover of a family health visit, but she wasn't seen leaving Kensington Palace for over 36 hours. A royal aide overheard Kate say, "She deserves to know. Her sister's story never ended. It was just rewritten." Kate also pulled in a royal historian she'd previously worked with, Dr. Evelyn Marks, a trusted advisor known for her deep research into royal archives. With no official clearance, Dr. Marks worked in Kate's private office, helping decode timelines, track inconsistencies, and match the vault's files against publicly released records. But not everyone supported Kate's quiet mission. Word of her movements spread fast. Within a week, 2 of her longtime personal staff were suddenly reassigned, one to Balmoral, another to St. James's Palace. When Kate tried to access older records stored digitally in the Royal Collection Trust, she was met with an alert. Access denied by directive. She was being blocked from within. Despite the pressure, she pressed on. By piecing together pages from a folder marked D94/Private Eyes, she uncovered a stunning revelation. A 1994 surveillance log allegedly tracking Diana's phone calls during her separation. Inside it, a reference to a call placed to a journalist days before Diana's tell-all interview, a call many believed had never happened. That discovery alone changed everything. It confirmed Diana was not acting alone. She was watched, pressured, and according to one document, monitored under HRH Protective Protocol, code Mirror. Kate now had proof, not just suspicion, that palace insiders had been involved in covering and curating Diana's every move. But her growing knowledge came with rising risk. According to one source, a private security officer warned Kate to drop it after she was spotted near the archive entrance late at night. Still, she pushed through. And then came the final spark. A single document, tucked between unrelated papers, titled Vault File 6B, Kensington, Last Will Segment, Unofficial. It referenced a never-released portion of Diana's will, allegedly handwritten and placed in a sealed envelope, now missing from official records. Kate whispered, "This is it. This is what they didn't want the world to see." But the truth came at a cost, one Kate would pay deeply. Because the deeper she went, the more the pain began to take over. Tears and turmoil. Kate's emotional unraveling. What began as an investigation quickly turned into an emotional breakdown. Behind the calm public face, Kate was crumbling. The weight of what she found, the lies, the cover-ups, the betrayal, became impossible to carry. In a private moment during a charity event at Somerset House, witnesses saw her leave the room with trembling hands. Minutes later, she was found in a corridor, eyes red, head down, quietly whispering, "How could they lie for so long?" One of her aides, who had been by her side for over a decade, said, "I've seen her tired, I've seen her stressed, but I've never seen her heartbroken like this." At night, she struggled to sleep. Sources close to her revealed she was haunted by Diana's voice, especially that tape where she said, "If something happens to me, look to the palace, not Paris." Kate found herself reliving Diana's final years, the isolation, the fear, the manipulation. She felt it now, not as a historian, but as a woman who walked into a family and was handed a legacy soaked in silence. The moment that broke her came during a quiet confrontation, not with Camilla, but with a senior palace intermediary, known for managing royal affairs behind the scenes. When Kate questioned why the vault was hidden and why Diana's truths were erased, the reply was cold. Because truth breaks more than it heals. That night, Kate wept uncontrollably. Not out of weakness, but from pure moral conflict. She was a future queen, sworn to protect the crown, but she was also a daughter-in-law to the woman whose life was cut short and rewritten. Should she stay silent or speak? In public, she held it together. But during a Remembrance Day appearance, a lens caught her face just before the national anthem. A single tear slid down her cheek, and though she wiped it quickly, the world noticed. The photo made headlines. Kate in tears, palace pressure mounts. People began asking questions. Quietly, privately, they began to side with her. Kate's emotional unraveling didn't make her weaker. It made her more human and more dangerous to those hiding the truth. Because now she wasn't just seeking facts. She was defending Diana. And nothing fuels a royal reckoning like a woman who's seen the truth and refuses to look away. Up next, the palace's desperate attempt to contain the damage and erase everything Kate had just uncovered. Secrecy versus exposure. Palace moves to contain damage. The moment word reached palace corridors that Kate had seen the vault, an invisible alarm was triggered. According to insiders, a classified meeting took place the very next morning inside Clarence House, involving Charles's senior advisors, a royal legal team, and 2 digital operations officers. The goal? Shut it down, fast. Within hours, the west wing of the palace, the section housing the secret vault, was cordoned off under the guise of urgent infrastructure works. Staff were told to evacuate. All security cameras in that wing were disabled for 72 hours, and internal emails referencing Archive Chamber C were systematically deleted. A senior staffer leaked the directive to a journalist: lock the vault, remove external access, and secure all known copies. Priority 1. Kate's private team faced escalating interference. 2 of her closest aides received immediate gag orders. A third was offered early retirement after questioning the legal grounds for removing Kate's access. Even Dr. Evelyn Marks, the historian assisting Kate, received a formal warning from the Royal Archives Trust, citing unauthorized inquiry into classified material. But it didn't stop there. The palace's media team activated a classic 3-part damage control strategy: deny, distract, and discredit. First, they denied the existence of any private vault not logged in official records. Next, a convenient story surfaced in the tabloids about Kate stepping back from duties due to exhaustion, distracting from the real reason behind her absence. Then came the whispers, planted subtly, repeated often, that Kate had been emotionally unstable, too wrapped up in Diana's myth, and pressured by external influencers. A source from the communications team confirmed, "The public must believe this is grief and fantasy, not a scandal." Privately, a series of NDAs were drafted and distributed to staff, some covering events going back to 1996. In total, 17 palace employees were silenced in under 5 days. But the pressure wasn't just internal. A controlled leak offered sanitized versions of 2 vault documents to friendly media outlets, reframing them as misinterpreted archival notes. These versions scrubbed out timelines, names, and handwritten annotations from Camilla, painting the material as historical curiosity, not evidence. Even Charles was advised not to intervene directly. According to one high-level official, if the king comments, he makes it real. Better to pretend it's smoke from nowhere. Still, Kate refused to back down. But as the palace moved to erase the story behind thick stone walls, the outside world began to notice and question. And that's when things turned. Not behind palace gates, but on the streets, on screens, and across the world. Public fallout, rumors, media, and royal reaction. As the palace stayed silent, the outside world erupted. It began with one photo: Kate, teary-eyed, stepping into a black Range Rover outside Kensington Palace. The Daily Mirror ran the headline, "Tears of a Princess, What Broke Kate?" By noon, hashtags like #CamillaVault, #KateKnows, and #JusticeForDiana were trending. TikTok creators, YouTubers, and royal fans worldwide began analyzing timelines, leaked interviews, and old footage, linking everything back to Diana, the vault, and Camilla's hidden role. One viral TikTok comparing Diana's 1995 notes to Kate's alleged discovery hit 12 million views in under 36 hours. The tabloids jumped in. The Sun, "What's in Camilla's vault?" The Guardian, "Who owns Diana's legacy? Camilla or Kate?" Behind closed doors, the royals panicked. An urgent family meeting at Balmoral brought together Charles, Camilla, William, and Princess Anne. Tensions exploded. According to one source, William said, "She's my wife. She has a right to know the truth." Camilla refused to address it directly, but issued a public statement. "Her Majesty has never maintained any private vault. Any implication otherwise is deeply misleading." But the damage was done. Royal households scrambled. PR teams rewrote social media plans. Press offices held crisis calls, and Buckingham Palace coordinated emergency messaging. Even Harry and Meghan, briefed from California, stayed silent. Though Meghan's friend posted a Diana photo with the caption, "Truth always rises." Protests followed. Outside royal events, people held signs, "Let Diana speak," and "Kate, we believe you." In Parliament, 2 MPs demanded a formal inquiry into royal archives. And still, Kate said nothing. But her silence was no longer submission. It was a warning. The truth wasn't just out there, it was coming. How Diana's legacy becomes a weapon. In the weeks after the leak, Princess Diana's memory shifted from sorrow to weapon. The vault's contents, letters, audio tapes, diaries, were no longer just history. They were evidence, and in Kate Middleton's hands, a direct threat. Palace insiders began calling it the legacy weapon. Some saw Diana's name as a shield for the monarchy. Others, especially Camilla's supporters, feared the fallout. One leaked quote said, "If Kate leaks those files, she doesn't just destroy Camilla, she could bring down the whole house." In response, Camilla's team launched PR campaigns to reshape Diana's story, portraying her as unstable, manipulated, tragic. They even considered publishing a clean Diana archive, one that left out everything dangerous. But the public wasn't fooled. Support for Kate soared. Editorials dubbed her the modern Diana, and 67% of Brits said she had the right to expose the truth. Protest signs read, "Truth belongs to Diana, not the palace." At a hospital visit, a young girl handed Kate a drawing of Diana with angel wings. Kate whispered, "She was the reason I kept going." She wasn't just holding Diana's legacy. She was about to decide its fate. Aftermath and what Kate must decide. Inside Kensington Palace, Kate held a locked briefcase, the vault's most powerful secrets inside. One leak could change royal history. But Camilla's lawyers had already drafted legal threats: defamation, national security violations, destruction of monarchy. King Charles, torn between loyalty and fear, reportedly begged Kate, "Protect the family, not her, the institution." But it wasn't his choice. It was hers. Kate began quietly meeting with historians, MPs, and journalists. Rumors swirled of an alliance. Kate, William, and Harry, united by one goal: reclaim Diana's truth. Camilla, meanwhile, prepared counter-documents, ready to fight fire with fire. Now, it's Kate's move. Expose the truth and risk everything? Or protect the lie and bury Diana again? One aide said she stood in the vault room holding a photo of Diana. She whispered, "She didn't get justice, but maybe she'll get peace." The world has waited 28 years, and the clock is still ticking. Kate now stands at a crossroads. Reveal the dark truths she found, or protect the crown and stay silent. As the palace scrambles and Camilla fights back, one thing is certain: Diana's legacy is no longer quiet. And the woman who just uncovered it? She's not backing down.